Oh. Oh God. Happy Halloween. Ooh. Welcome to our bonus episode. Surprise. You guys, Delaney and I got dressed up for this. This is not even a video podcast, but we're sitting here in costume. I am like sort of Edna mode. Not my whole costume has arrived in the mail yet, but I'm like halfway there. I'm rocking. If you've ever been like, Kendall, first of all, what does Kendall look like? Second of all, what would Kendall look like with a fuck-ass bob? Go to our TikTok and you'll see. We put these on in 5 minutes, so trust that I guess I could look a little bit better than I do right now, but honestly, maybe not. I'm kind of giving Willy Wonka. Fuck. No, oh no. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wait, no,
what
I
does
can't
he say? What's
unsee
a
this.
line?
What am I giving? I'm just supposed to be giving something. That's it. Anyway, Delaney's a cute little cat, of course. Nonetheless, welcome back to Spilled, everyone. We are your hosts, Kendall
and Delaney.
And we are so excited to be spilling history's hottest gossip with you on this spooky bonus episode. That's right. We know you guys are always looking for more spilled, and we got the whole team rallied around doing a bonus episode so we can bring you not 2, but 3 spooky episodes this October. Today, we're going to be diving into a 6'4", tall, dark, and handsome liberal man that just can't seem to leave people alone. And I'm not talking about my ex. No, today, everyone, we're going to be talking about Abe Lincoln's famous ghost. Delaney, what can we expect today?
All right, Kendall, we're going to start off with the assassination story, okay? Just so everybody kind of gets a base, you understand the room where it happened, where it all started, okay? Then we're going to dive into Mary, his wife, and the despair that she went through and some of her measures that she took to, let's just say, communicate with her husband after he passed. And after that, we're going to get into the actual ghost stories themselves in all of their astonishing glory. I was personally extremely shocked to hear of the people that have claimed to have seen Abe's ghost, and have been very frightened by it, let me add.
Before we dive in, Delaney, it's Halloween. What candy are you hoping for? What's your vice?
Can you guess? Can you guess? Based off our childhood.
Oh, shit. I feel like I should know this, actually. Uh-oh. Oh my God, I actually don't know.
Okay, well maybe it's a great time to add. Are you kidding me? When Kendall and I were children, there was another one too. There was Ashby. Don't want to forget her. When we were children, okay, every Halloween, we would all go trick-or-treating together. It was so cute, very wholesome. But when we got home, okay, all of the wholesome just disappeared because Drill Sergeant Kendall, oldest sister, okay, the keeper of all candy, would sit us down and we would all dump out all of the candy that we had gotten, at which point Kendall would then decide the order in which and which candy, who got who.
No, first I would organize all of my candy into piles, and my sisters, bless their hearts, did not. So obviously they were starting off from a place of chaos, but then we would trade. And what I ran was a democracy, actually a meritocracy, okay? It was fair. I am nothing if not fair, okay? So I would insist that the candies you do not like were traded. And then the ideal outcome was that we all had candy we liked. What was so bad about that, Delaney?
Probably the fact that you would always give me the damn Swedish fish, thinking that's my favorite candy. Really? Butterfingers, Kendall. It was always the Butterfingers.
Oh, you know what? That was the very first thing I thought of when you asked me that question.
Ashby would have known that one. You know why? Because I would always take her Butterfingers. Or the Heath bars.
Well, Butterfingers were my favorite, so I can see how that caused some conflict. Now that we've unlocked a little bit of Kendall character lore, besides the wig, Delaney, what's the context for our episode today? I'm sure everyone has heard of Abe Lincoln.
Well, Kendall, Abe Lincoln, for our context today, was assassinated on April 14th, 1865. Now, I want everybody to keep in mind, this is 8 days, okay? 8 days after the end of the Civil War. All right, so he had just celebrated his victory. He was finally through the war, and he decides to go watch Our American Cousin, the play, while in Ford's Theater in D.C. And at around 10:30 p.m., the sound of a pistol goes off in the direction of the state box where Lincoln is sitting watching the play. By 7:22 a.m. the next morning, the President of the United States was dead. Now, we have really good medical records as to the entire play-by-play that happens after Lincoln is shot. I mean, we have his pulse was at 44 BPM. His eyes were entirely closed. His left pupil is contracted. His right is dilated. We have all the details. However, I'm going to spare you all of those so we can get into the more juicy, ghostly details of today's episode. So, following his assassination, Mary Todd Lincoln, his wife, was, as you could imagine, in a state of utter despair and shock. Now, she was not at the theater at the time of his assassination. She was informed pretty immediately.
I really thought she was there, to be honest. In my head, when I picture it, it's them two at the theater. Wow.
Right? No, she was home because she was sick.
Oh. I wonder if he would have shot her too. John Wilkes Booth.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm very curious as to that. I actually think it was pretty lucky that Mary was not there when he was assassinated, considering at this point in time, she had already lost 2 of her 4 sons, and she loses Tad Lincoln about 15 years after Lincoln's passing too. So she had already gone through grief. She had already gone through the depths of despair. And that isn't to say, though, that Lincoln's death was taken lightly by her at all. In fact, after Lincoln's death, she wore mourning clothes, like all black, transitioned to purple at some point in time, for the rest of her life.
Wow.
17 years.
Get me one of those spouses. If I die before my spouse dies, I will come back and haunt them. Maybe they won't even know, but like I just want to make sure that they're mourning me forever and ever and ever. And or like I guess it would be okay if they got remarried because obviously I want the best for them, but like they better kind of like have a little tear fall down their face every so often when they think about me.
Right. I feel like that's just natural. Kind of has to happen.
It's just common courtesy.
Right.
That's kind of like the bare minimum.
Right, like, did you really love me if you're not wearing black clothing for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Ladies, this is like a really great new conversation starter for your man. So next time you're laying in bed and he is just about to fall asleep, make sure to ask him how long he's going to wear black after you die, if you die first.
Well, that and how long they will lay in bed. Because for Mary, it was 5 weeks after his death. She stayed in bed. Guys, she didn't go to his funeral.
Oh, wow.
Partially due to illness. Now, at this point in time, especially with presidential families, illness doesn't always mean physical illness. It can also mean a mental illness. And she wrote, "Without my beloved husband's presence, the world is filled with gloom and dreariness for me." Yeah. She stopped the construction of the original memorial they were having built in Springfield, Illinois. She did not want that. She wanted him to be buried in a quiet, very rural cemetery where she could visit. So she fully stops this construction and buries him in the Oak Ridge Cemetery in Illinois. So it was in the same states, both in Springfield, but she did not like the idea of it being a big public memorial for him. And then in 1875, Robert, her surviving son at this point, her only surviving son, takes her to court to be placed into asylum.
Whoa.
Yeah. She stays in Bellevue Palace Sanatorium in Illinois for 3 months. So let's just say that his death didn't just shake the country. It gutted her.
I swear to God, if I have a son and he straight up is like, I'm not dealing with this bitch anymore, person number 2 I'm going to haunt on this list. I feel like Ryan from The Office, like, you know, that meme where he's like writing down people, like he's writing down his little list. That's me. That's really tragic and very Shakespearean, very tragically romantic. She loved him so much, presumably, that's why she was so unstable, I guess, without really knowing the details.
Yeah. And she might have been, not to speculate here, but might have been a teensy bit unstable from the beginning. I should add, now, while we're still on the topic of Mary Todd, she did hold seances in the White House.
I love that for her.
Right?
Yes.
Like, okay.
Bring that back.
Okay, Miss Necromancy Queen.
Donald Trump, like, having a seance for Jeffrey Epstein. What's in the files?
Don't tell them anything. Jeffrey, do not tell them anything. Okay? Okay.
We have
not a word, Jeff. Not a word,
problem.
Jeff. Jeff, not a word. Okay? Not a word, Jeff. This is going to be a huge problem, Jeff. A huge problem for us. Yeah, it's rumored. Well, not even rumored. It's very much confirmed that she had likely like up to eight seances within the White House.
The staff were like, God damn it, she's at it again. She's at it again. Who has the candles? Who was in charge of that? Also, mind you, the White House has burned down before. Like in the not too distant past, did the White House burn down? And she's over here lighting candles, talking to the dead. What year, Delaney?
1814.
Wait, and so what year are we in right now?
65.
Okay. So, like, the foundation hasn't even solidified into this God's green earth, and she's over here lighting candles.
Yeah. Kendall, okay, you didn't let me add the point in. She was holding these seances originally to speak to her son, Willie, who had died.
No, of course. Death makes people very desperate. In, like, not a judgy way, but, like, you really cling to anything. That's why anyone does a seance.
I guess so. And you know what's kind of funny? Or not funny, but I guess it's a common trend we see. After the death of her son, Willie, she also stayed in bed for weeks and didn't tend his funeral either.
Suspicious.
Very
Just kidding.
Suspicious.
She had a very distinct mourning process, and I respect that.
She did, and to each their own, right? In 1862, she even brings in a medium, Nettie Colburn, very famous medium. Look her up. And Nettie claims that the president was actually there. Abe Lincoln was present in these seances. This is pre-death, okay? He was present in a physical form, not in a spirit form. He attended these seances for their son so they could communicate with their son Willie a few times. He wasn't there every time, but it was said that he did join in these seances as well. And so within this seance with Nettie Colburn, 1862, allegedly the spirits that she channeled urged him to issue none other than the Emancipation Proclamation. Hey.
We have some liberal spirits in that White House. Can someone please I know I said bad things about the White House seances, but can we please get some more started? These liberal ghosts, they're doing good things.
We need them. Clearly.
Do they take requests? It's like a prayer request, sort of.
Right. It's like the Etsy witch. How much you gonna pay them?
But more legit. That is hilarious.
Yeah. And she would even, like, Mary Todd would get in touch with her sons through these seances, and apparently they offered predictions about Confederate battle plans, information about treachery, and she would notoriously rush them to the White House to advise her husband on them. So,
wow. What cabinet position is that?
Right? Like, the seeker, the soothsayer, right? But she fully saw her son Willie, too. She claimed that he stood at the foot of her bed every night with a sweet smile. He doesn't always come alone. Little Eddie is sometimes with him, her other son. So it wasn't abnormal for her to contact and see spirits. So it's no wonder she maybe, like, conjured up Abe. And that's why we see him all the time.
Spoiler alert. So it might have been because I did a project in elementary school on Civil War ghosts. So I think this sounds all kind of normal. But was this big at the time? Was like seances and mediums and ghosts and all of that, like spirituality stuff, was that popular in this time period?
As shocking as it is, spiritualism peaked in the 1850s all the way up to the 19th century, which is kind of insane because when I think of American history or U.S. history, I feel like we were founded so late compared to everybody else that like everybody had already had their witch crazes and they had already had their crazy stuff. It's actually where we get the idea of mediums and seances that we have like in present American history. Ghosts, and this is within spiritualism in the United States, okay? Ghosts died a tragic death and tied to death or tied to their burial site in some way. Spirits are any departed person in any location. So essentially, spiritualism was very comforting. We see it peak in the 10 years leading up to and after the Civil War. And like we've kind of had a theme with all of our October episodes, people want answers to things that they can't explain and that they can't accept. And a lot of those happen to be death and death of their family members. And so it was this idea of an eternal life, was the concept you could communicate with people after they had passed. And it really shifts to a very like scientific process in this time.
Delaney, have you seen a ghost before?
Oh, I've seen many ghosts, Kendall. Oh, I'm serious. Kendall, how many ghosts have you seen?
I've seen one ghost. And, if that picture Delaney painted for us at the beginning of the episode of me being so practical and logical misled you, no, I have in fact seen a ghost. And that's why I believe in ghosts, because I've seen one. So I'm a very concrete thinker. I was driving with my mom and we were stopped at an intersection and there were a couple different churches like on all different sides of the intersection. And to the right was this really long lawn and like there's nothing around. There's no houses. It's just like a mega church and like two other churches. Big lawn ahead of one of the churches and this utility box. The utility box was near the road. I look over. It's dark out. It's nighttime. 5 feet from the intersection by the utility box was a little boy. And I know this sounds whack, but like he was not all the way opaque. And I look at my mom and I said, "Do you see the little boy over there?" And we look back and he was gone. And then if you look down at that intersection, there's 3 crosses where a little boy and his little sister and his mother were killed in a car accident.
Wow, so you're a believer.
I am a believer. And when I saw his face,
hey,
I'm a believer.
And not a trace. Say what? Of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. Okay. I think I'm like, well, my ghost story, I feel like Kendall already knows this, but if you know me, you probably know this. But when I was a child, I used to see, and I actually saw them up until like through early adulthood, a woman in Renaissance funeral clothing, and she would stand in the corner of my room, and sometimes a man would be with her, and none other than a top hat. So now I'm realizing maybe it was Abe and Mary? What? Could it literally be?
Renaissance.
Right. Yeah, no, different time period. But saw her over and over again, and I started to see him occasionally. And I thought it was just the room and like the shadows and the light. And or when I came to the conclusion I was seeing them, I was like, okay, it's just this room. Till I moved into what used to be Kendall's room, and there they appeared once again.
And we swapped rooms, and I have never once seen a ghost in that bedroom. So
yes, and I continuously see them. So if they're listening right now, please leave me alone.
Dad, if you're listening, your house is haunted.
Haunted as butt, boy. But guys, okay. Call us crazy, but Queen Victoria herself was a believer, okay, with Prince Albert, all right? And in fact, a report came out in 1897 that an estimated 8 million people across the U.S. and Europe believed in ghosts, okay? And most of these were the upper to middle class people, which, if we're talking in terms of society and societal views, these are the most highly educated people and had a lot of resources in front of them. So call us crazy, all right? But we side with the 8 million believers, okay?
So I actually got the idea for this episode because I was on a ghost tour in DC, and that man fucking hated his job, let me tell you. I've been on a bunch of ghost tours very casually, not at all weird, not at all loser behavior, don't worry. They're actually so fun. If you guys need like a fun group activity or even like a fun date, go on a ghost tour.
I love a good ghost tour.
Pro tip, if you enjoy a little silly bev every now and then, it's really fun if you've had a drink or two, and it's even more fun if you sneak a couple airplane bottles in your pocket during it, as long as you're not disrespectful, guys. Behave, but they're really fun. So under those contexts, I've done multiple ghost tours, and I did one in DC. That guy actually hated his job. He was like, you can tell when your ghost tour guide does not believe in ghosts, and he wanted to be anywhere but there. But they told us standing outside of the White House about Abe Lincoln's ghost, and I forget everything now. So Delaney, will you please tell me the ghost stories?
Of course. Well, okay, first starts out, I'm sorry, I'm like edging everybody. It starts out first before Lincoln dies, okay? He dreams of his own death. There are 2 accounts where he apparently prophesizes his own death.
But it only happened once, or it was the same ending?
No, 2 separate times. Well, he only dies once, obviously. But
yeah,
no,
but like a broken clock is right twice a day. Like, he could have done this every night until he died.
Right. Yeah. So basically, Ward Hill Layman, a very close friend to Lincoln, wrote down that in 1865, mind you, the year he dies, Lincoln says, and I quote, "About 10 days ago, I retired very late. I soon began to dream. I arrived at the East Room. Before me it was a catafalque," which is essentially a thing that you hold dead people on, kind of like a coffin type of thing. "Who was dead in the White House?" Lincoln says. A staff member says, "The president. He was killed by an assassin."
No way.
And Lincoln wakes up from his dream.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And that was just weeks leading up to his death. And in 1860, so right after he wins his election, 5 years prior to his death, he sees a double image of himself in his face, a double image of his face in the mirror in his home in Springfield, Illinois. One was his face. The other was a ghost-like imitation of himself. And Mary was in the room with him when this happened. And she's like, he obviously is like, "Mary."
He was like,
"Okay,
whatever you're doing right now, cut it the fuck out."
He's like, "Mary, enough with these damn seances. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with this, bro." And he was just kind of like shook it off, apparently. She was very, very troubled by it. She basically proposed that the sharper image, aka like his normal face, meant that he would serve out his first term and then be renominated. But the ghost-like image meant that he would not live to complete his second term. And I hate to break it to Lincoln, but she was right.
This is interesting because, I mean, obviously there had to have been a pretty high level of paranoia. Like, this was a very controversial president that people were so up in arms, literally, about him and his decisions that there was an entire war, our only domestic war against each other in this country. So I wouldn't be shocked if there were a lot of assassination threats, vibes, attempts going on. But still, I do think that that's quite freaky. And that war had been going on, but he had 2 of these dreams in 1 year, the year.
So again, 1865, April 14th, Lincoln is assassinated. And after this, we begin to hear about quite a few ghost sightings within the White House itself. In my opinion, these are some of the most credible ghost accounts, I would say, considering that a lot of them came from the Queen of the Netherlands, the Coolidge family, the Roosevelts, the Reagans, Winston Churchill himself, okay? Hell, if you didn't believe in ghosts, you might after this. The ghost sightings all start off with Grace Coolidge, First Lady of the United States, wife of Calvin Coolidge, if you aren't familiar. She was one of the first people to actually report seeing Lincoln's ghost within the White House. She claimed that she saw him standing in the window of the Oval Office. His hands were clasped behind his back, like he always stood, and he was just gazing over the Potomac.
How is the Potomac?
I know. That part confused me, but I guess at that point in time, you could see the Potomac from there.
Okay. Sorry, we're having like a little DC moment. I'm like, that's an awfully far gaze.
Awfully far, very far, but I guess with no other... I don't know. They're in her personal accounts, so...
You mean without multiple barricades in front of the White House now and freaking agents everywhere and protesters?
She told me she could see over the tanks? Shit, I can't. So it's kind of a consistent theme that you guys will start to notice in all of these ghost accounts. Lincoln is always very, like, deep in thought whenever he's seen. It's never like he's fucking with people or he's doing anything. He's always, like, very deep thinking about something. We'll go into some of President Johnson's suspicions. Like, he believed that Lincoln showed up in times of turmoil or, like, in times that, like, the country needed advice and needed help. He would show up and would be pondering.
A little Mary Poppins vibe.
A little bit. But it didn't stop there, okay? Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands, this was during FDR's administration. She's awakened by a knock on the door. "Ja," she says. "President Lincoln, what are you doing here?" The president has no reply. Moments later, the queen faints, flat on the floor, cold as a ghost. White House staff even support this story by saying that they also heard the knock at her door. Now, they didn't claim to have seen President Lincoln standing outside of her door as a ghost-like figure. However, the Queen of the Netherlands, all I'm going to say is I don't think she would lie, to be honest. And if she fully faints because of this, like, y'all, she saw something, okay? She saw something. She saw somebody. And she's knocked out. She let FDR know a little something about the house he was living in. Let's say that for sure.
Also, when you think about ghosts, I do feel like the most imposing ones would be a tall figure with a tall-ass top hat. Like,
where was this
pretty
accent
tall.
Coming from? A tall-ass tall?
Wait, is that what I sounded like?
Yeah, he's too tall. You've been in Brooklyn for too long. It's crazy. Get her out of Williamsburg. Get her out of Brooklyn. It's too tall for her. My goodness gracious.
Tall-ass hat?
With the tall-ass top hat? Yes, I feel like it would be very scary. I'm with you.
It's fucking terrifying.
Was that British?
I don't know. I'm so bad at this. It's fucking terrifying. Was that good?
You gave yourself a speech impediment? It's very embarrassing. That's what you do. Where we talk about it.
It's fucking embarrassing.
Embarrassing. No, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Very embarrassing. He's very tall. Very embarrassing.
I think I'm starting to like the Renaissance Fair.
Well, it's great. And Burnley, never been on live television before. Well, speaking of the Roosevelt family, Eleanor Roosevelt used Lincoln's bedroom as her study, notoriously. Like, she liked to do all her first lady business there. And she denied seeing him. So, like, when asked about it, she was like, never seen him. Okay, never seen him. But she said that she felt his presence, and specifically his presence, every time she worked late. She said that she felt like he was standing behind her, peering over her shoulder multiple times. And she never denied that the house was haunted by his ghost. She very much was like, yeah, he's definitely here. I haven't personally seen him, but hell have I felt him. Like, that man will not leave me alone.
Interesting.
Right? They had work to do. And so did, like, all of their pets also. Because not only President Reagan, so President Reagan had his own dog, Nancy Reagan had her own dog, and they would both notoriously, every time they would pass the Lincoln bedroom, they would stop, stand outside the bedroom, and bark at Lincoln's bedroom and refused to ever enter it.
That's so
Rex.
freaky because, you know,
right?
Dogs are really keen to this stuff.
Yeah, dogs I feel like always know. Animals just know. They can sense something else.
They're closer to the spiritual realm, like babies.
Now, the next account is probably my personal favorite. I kind of mentioned it a little early on, but to me it's like the most convincing of the sighting stories. Now, this next ghost sighting account is honestly my personal favorite out of all of them, and I think it's the most convincing, considering that it came from none other than Winston fucking Churchill, guys, the man himself. This was during World War II. Winston goes to visit the White House so he can discuss all the business with Roosevelt, and he takes a hot bath, as we know, in pure Churchill fashion. He takes his bath, he has a cigar, and he sees a figure leaning on the mantelpiece in the bedroom.
And he's in the bathtub.
He's in the bathtub. He's completely
naked.
Vulnerable and naked. And if there's one thing to know about Winston Churchill, especially as he reached older age, he never, ever wanted to appear weak. He still very much operated on the classic monarchical British ideal that a king couldn't be sick. He couldn't be weak. And that's how Winston really saw himself. And again, of course, the older he got, the more calls for him to retire and for him to step down came in as people argued he wasn't physically or mentally fit to be in office. So that was always on his mind, and he was very adverse to showing any struggle, any weakness, physically or mentally. All right. So with that said, he sees a transparent figure, and it's Abraham Lincoln, right? Very deep in thought again. And completely ignoring the fact that Churchill is naked, butt fucking naked. So, also very classic for Churchill. He says, he speaks. He speaks to Ghost Lincoln, and he says, "Mr. President, you seem to have caught me at a disadvantage." The ghost apparently smiles and then vanishes.
Oh my God. I think I would take that to my grave. If I was naked and I admitted to everyone that I was talking to a ghost naked, I would take that to my grave. That's how you know it's legit. Like whoever would make that up? Who could even come up with that?
What I feel like confirms this even more is he requested to sleep in the bedroom across the hall for the rest of his visit. For those of you that aren't aware of the little insider scoop of the White House, it is a very locked down place, as you can imagine. And if you're in a room, okay, if you're sleeping in a room, you're there for a specific reason. They know they know why you're there. They know where you are. You've been put there for a reason. You can't just walk up, and especially being Winston Churchill, I want y'all to imagine, he exits the room. He goes to God knows who. He's like, "All right, come here, listen up." President Lincoln was just standing at the fucking mantle of my bedroom. So what you're going to do is you're going to get me a different room, or I'm getting the hell out of your cursed country, because what the hell? Like, that is insane. And it even confirms it even more. He goes to somebody, asks to request rooms, and stays in a different room for the rest of his visit. The strongest, most iron curtain damn man was scared shitless of Lincoln's ghost.
Whether or not he actually saw this ghost, Churchill clearly thought he did and believes he did. So that is so interesting. Are there any other ghost stories from Abe Lincoln?
There are, and we'll run through some of them pretty quickly. We have Harry Truman. The Truman family was supposedly extremely haunted by him. Harry and his daughter Margaret often claimed to hear Lincoln pacing in the Lincoln bedroom at night. All the way to the point, actually, that Truman had this idea that Lincoln was protective over the house, and he was pacing in his bedroom, again, deep in thought, for a reason during a time of national strife. So he was like, if we hear Lincoln pacing, something's going on, right? So he fully credits Lincoln for saving him and his family and the White House in the 1940s, because he hears this pacing going on. It kind of freaks the kids out. And so Truman is like, all right, since it's all freaking you out, all these noises at night, I'm going to have a full investigation done on the structure of the home to kind of prove that everything's fine, right? And they found that the White House was in immediate danger of collapsing within the next few weeks, they predicted. Yeah. And it was after this that they had a complete renovation.
Interesting. Okay.
Maybe bring in the East Wing here.
Well, I bet Lincoln is doing an Irish fucking jig right now in this White House because if you guys haven't heard, Trump has torn down the East Wing of the White House to put in a ballroom, Versailles style, probably. So I can only imagine what Lincoln's ghost is doing right about now.
Jesus left, Christ. Girl. He probably said, fuck this.
He said, you know what?
After all these years, bro.
Let me pass.
I'm done. Let me pass over, y'all. I'm done, dude. This even goes into the Reagan's term, guys. Nancy Reagan wrote famously, most, if not all of the White House staff seemed to believe in Lincoln's ghost. She claimed she had never seen him personally, but she knew her dogs were always going crazy over Lincoln's bedroom. Maureen Reagan woke up one night to a shadowy, transparent figure with a top hat near her bed. Kind of crazy. And the overall kind of cultural meaning that the United States, apparently as a whole, came to at this point was that they fought so hard to hold on to Lincoln's ghost because he represented the idea of a spirit coming home and looking after his family from above. Again, it's tying into this whole spiritualism era. And this was during a time when so many families had lost their fathers and their sons, similar to Lincoln, like Mary. And it was comforting to know that the father of the nation was still looking over them as well. So, all in all, Lincoln's ghost is here to stay, baby. You can't escape him. Go to Ford Cedar, you'll probably see him. Apparently, if you're on 10th Street Northwest, you'll probably see him. And Donald Trump, if you're walking the halls of the White House, beware. Beware. Because Lincoln's got his eyes on you, baby. He's got his eyes on you.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. This one was really fun because we were able to take these are credible sources, but like a slightly more, let's call it generous turn with the research for this episode because we are just presenting you stories and accounts. No one can prove any of this stuff. We just have credible sources that these people believe it. So this was super fun.
Yes. Kendall, what for this episode was your dinner party takeaway?
The Churchill story is hilarious. It is definitely that. And I feel like that would be a really funny like SNL skit too. But I want to see Donald Trump in the bathtub and be like weird.
I honestly don't know if I want to see that now that I'm picturing it in my head.
No one wants to see that. I feel like Lincoln's like, you know what, actually, you're fine. Do whatever you want.
He's dangling files in his face.
No. Turn down those lights. Exactly. Well, I hope everyone has a super safe Halloween, guys, Halloween weekend. I'm sure the festivities have already kicked off. I would love to see, this is so silly, but guys, I would really love to see your Halloween costumes. So tag us, DM us, comment, little stickers in the comments because I just want to see, especially if you guys have a good history-based Halloween costume. Oh my God, do we want to see those? So send those our way. And the great news is, guys, about this bonus episode is you barely have to wait for the next one. So we are back to our regular scheduled programming this coming Tuesday. Yeah, we've been hard at work, okay? So make sure you follow the pod, subscribe. I've been putting in some work on the socials, kind of taking it in different directions, right? And like trying out different forms of content. So go engage with what you like so I know what works. And we will see you guys on Tuesday.
Bye.
Spilled would be truly nothing without our awesome team, Rachel Stout, Jacob Regner, and Soraya Fofana.